Can you hear that? The sound of wind whistling across a barren wasteland, a silence so profound it feels like a physical weight. There's a story most of us think we know, a story told for thousands of years in the pages of ancient texts. But what if I told you that the version you know is just the tip of the iceberg, that the truth behind it is far deeper, more complex, and more alarming? The story of 40 days in the desert. A fateful confrontation. But who was that shadowy figure in the wilderness, the one making the deadly offers? The answer might just make you question everything you thought you knew. And more importantly, that battle isn't over. It's still being waged, right now, inside your mind and mine, every single day. Before we pull back that curtain of mystery, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Drop a comment below. I truly want to connect with every one of you, and stick with me until the very end, because the revelation waiting for us isn't just an old story, it's a key to winning your own battles. Now let's journey back in time together to the most desolate and unforgiving place on earth. The Judean wilderness is not a place for the living. It's a vast, brutal canvas painted with sand, stone, and an endless silence. Under the scorching sun, every rock becomes a hot plate. There is no shade, no relief. When night falls, a bone-chilling cold creeps in, and the wind howling through the canyons sounds like the wail of lost souls. This is a kingdom of hardship, a place where the line between life and death is razor thin. And this is precisely where Jesus was led. Just days earlier, something extraordinary had happened. On the banks of the Jordan River, in front of a crowd of onlookers, he was baptized by John the Baptist. And at the very moment he rose from the water, a stunning spectacle occurred. The heavens ripped open, the Holy Spirit descended on him like a dove, and a voice from heaven itself boomed, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." This was the official declaration, the inauguration of his earthly ministry. Logically, one would expect him to begin immediately, to go out preaching, healing the sick, performing earth-shattering miracles. But no. Instead, the Spirit itself led him into the wilderness. This alone speaks volumes. In the Bible, the desert is never just a place. It's a symbol. It is the place of testing, of purification, of preparation. It was there that the people of Israel wandered for 40 years to learn obedience. It was there that Moses encountered God in the burning bush and received his mission to liberate a nation. And now it was Jesus' turn to face his own crucible. For 40 days and 40 nights, he was there, alone. He fasted. No bread, no water, no human contact. Just him, the raw creation, and the silent presence of the Father. But he wasn't truly alone. Hidden in the shadows of the rocks, cloaked in the sound of the whistling wind, another presence was there. A sinister, sophisticated enemy, silently watching, stalking, and waiting. He didn't strike on day one when Jesus' will was strong and his body was fresh. He waited. He was terrifyingly patient. He waited until day 40. After 40 days without food, the human body reaches its absolute limit. Hunger is no longer a discomfort. It's a gnawing agony that consumes you from the inside out. The body grows weak, frail. The mind, no matter how strong, becomes exhausted, clouded. And it was in that precise moment of ultimate vulnerability, when a person is most fragile, that the figure appeared. So who is this tempter, and what does he really want? Many of us know the story and jump to the conclusion, it's the devil, it's Satan. But what if I told you that to grasp the sheer gravity of this confrontation, we need to dig deeper into this enemy's identity? This isn't just a Bible story. It's a chilling warning that echoes into our world today. Because the same enemy that tested Jesus then is still testing you and me every single day. Maybe not with stones and bread, but with subtle distractions, sweet-sounding lies, and propositions that seem good but ultimately pull us away from our true purpose. Today, we will uncover who this mysterious figure truly is and what he really wanted from the Son of God. And most importantly, this spiritual battle reveals a roadmap for how we can win our own daily struggles. To have the audacity to confront and tempt the Son of the living God, this being could not be some run-of-the-mill entity. He wasn't a common spirit, not even a mid-level demon. This had to be someone with terrifying intelligence, authority, and a deep, twisted knowledge of the scriptures themselves. So who was he really? The Bible calls him the tempter, Satan, which means the adversary, and the devil, the accuser. But think about it, who in all of creation would have the nerve, the sheer arrogance to challenge the Son of the Creator himself? There is one, a being who once had it all, and then lost everything to his own pride. A being who once waged war against God himself. I'm sure you know his name, Lucifer. Yes, Lucifer, the morning star, son of the dawn. The prophet Isaiah in chapter 14 and Ezekiel in chapter 28 describe a being of perfect creation, full of wisdom and beauty. He was one of the highest, most glorious, and most powerful of all created beings. But pride was found in his heart. He wanted to be like the Most High, to set his throne above the stars of God, and for that sin he was cast out of heaven, falling from the heights of glory into the abyss of darkness. The name Lucifer, which once meant light-bearer, became synonymous with the greatest enemy of the Creator, and many scholars believe that after his fall, Lucifer is the one known as Satan, the adversary. Being exiled from heaven didn't mean he lost his superhuman intelligence or his vast knowledge. On the contrary, he now wields all of it against God and against humanity, God's beloved creation. If he had the courage to start a war in heaven, what would stop him from tempting Jesus in the desert when Jesus was in a weakened human body? For Lucifer, he had already fallen and knew his end would be defeat. Tempting Jesus wouldn't bring any worse consequences than what he was already suffering. He had nothing left to lose. So, the most accepted answer is yes. The being who tested Jesus was Lucifer, now known as Satan. The most cunning, the most audacious, and the most dangerous of all the fallen angels. And there's more. He doesn't show up with horns and a pitchfork. That image, which many believe to be of Satan, is an invention of folklore. The Bible gives no indication of his appearance. On the contrary, he acts in a subtle, almost invisible way. Satan doesn't need a physical body of flesh and blood to operate. He works in the mind, in the thoughts, in the seeds of doubt. This is how he influences us. And what makes this even more dangerous is that temptation often comes with a mask of wisdom, with the appearance of something good. But behind it is always a plan to steer us away from God. The most curious thing about this story is that he appears at the exact moment Jesus is physically at his weakest. This shows us that the enemy always acts when we are most vulnerable. He waits, he watches, he calculates. But there was one thing he did not expect. Jesus, though weak in body, was powerful in spirit, because Jesus knew the truth. And he who knows the truth cannot be deceived. And you know what's even more interesting? This same tempter who appeared at the beginning of Jesus' ministry is the same one who tempted Adam and Eve in Eden, the same one who has deceived countless people throughout history, and the same one who still tries to distance us from God today. But unlike Adam, Jesus resisted. He faced the tempter head-on and showed us how to win. And now that we know who the enemy is, we need to understand how he operated, what temptations he used, and why they are still so dangerous to this day. The first thing the tempter does is question Jesus' identity. He says, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread." Remember, he doesn't start by saying, "You're hungry, eat." No, he starts with a condition. He plants a seed of doubt. And this is how he deals with us too, trying to make us doubt who we are in God. Jesus was hungry, and turning stones into bread would have been easy for him. But the problem wasn't the bread. It was the reason behind the request. The enemy wanted Jesus to use his power for his own satisfaction, outside of the Father's will. How many times are we tempted to solve things with our own hands? The first temptation is about that. The hunger of the soul, the desire for immediate relief, even if it costs us our communion with God. But Jesus responds with certainty. It is written, "Man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." In other words, it's not just the body that needs food. The soul needs the word too. And Jesus made that clear to us. In the second temptation, the devil takes Jesus to a high place and shows him all the kingdoms of the world, their pleasures and glories. And he says to Jesus, "All this I will give you if you will bow down and worship me." This proposal is terrifying. The enemy offers power, dominion, fame, all of this in exchange for worship. But realize something, what he's offering is not his. He wants to trade what he doesn't have. He offers empty promises, the promises of the world, but delivers spiritual prison. This is the temptation of power, of pride, of ambition. And this still happens today more than we imagine. People sell their souls for status, for money, for the appearance of success. But Jesus responds again with the word, "You shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." And then comes the third temptation. The devil takes Jesus to the highest point of the temple in Jerusalem and says, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here, for it is written that the angels will hold you up." This time, Satan uses a verse from Psalm 91. Look, the enemy uses the Bible itself to try to manipulate Jesus. Satan is very intelligent, my friends. He knows the scriptures. He knows what is written and tries to use this against us. This is the temptation of spiritual vanity, of wanting to show off, of wanting to test God as if we needed proof to believe. But Jesus responds firmly once again, "It is also written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." After this third temptation, something powerful happens. Satan was defeated. He had no more arguments, no more room to maneuver. The Bible says he turned away from Jesus for a time. In Luke 4:13, it shows us that when the devil had finished all this tempting, he left him until an opportune time. In other words, he retreated, but he didn't give up. He would still look for another moment. This reminds us that temptation is persistent. She might pass today, but come back tomorrow. So we need to be ever vigilant. And after all these temptations, Jesus was victorious. As weak as he was physically, he remained strong in spirit. At that very moment after the temptations, the angels came and served food and drink to the Son of God. And then, strengthened, Jesus left the desert and began his ministry. From there he began to preach, to heal, to deliver, to teach. But the foundation of everything was built in that solitude, in that invisible struggle. Because before overcoming the world out there, Jesus needed to defeat the enemy out of the world's sight. Each of these temptations reveals a pattern that still repeats today. They are the same strategies he used with Eve in Eden. The lust of the flesh, the fruit that looked good, the lust of the eyes, attractive and pleasant, and the pride of life to be like God. And they are the same weapons he still uses with us today. But Jesus showed us that we can win, and the key is always in the Word, in knowing who we are, in trusting the Father even when we are in the desert. You know, the more we look at this story, the more we realize that it's not just about Jesus, it's about us. Because if even the Son of God was tempted, who are we to think that we won't be? But there's an important detail here. Being tempted is not a sin. Jesus himself went through this, and he showed us that what defines our victory is how we react to this temptation. There are times when it seems like no one sees our struggles, right? We go through days when faith weakens, the soul is tired, and the will is to leave everything behind. At these moments, the enemy whispers, "You are not strong enough. You are not who God says you are. You deserve better. Why wait for God?" But look at what Jesus did. He didn't respond with screams, nor with physical force. He responded with the word, simple, direct, and without giving in. This teaches us something powerful. It's not about the strength of our flesh. It's about the strength of our faith. Temptation will come. The desert will come. But if the word is alive in us, we will have a ready answer, an answer born of trust in God. So let me ask you, when was the last time you were tempted? And how did you react? Whatever it was, know one thing: there is still time to choose the right path. Jesus showed us that path. God did not take Jesus to the desert by chance. He could have started the ministry directly with miracles, sermons, healings. But before all this came the silence, the isolation, the invisible struggle, and it is exactly like that with us. Sometimes people ask, why does God allow me to go through this? But the truth is that even if we don't always understand it at the time, the desert prepares us to live a greater life. Jesus came out of the desert stronger, more full of the Spirit, ready to fulfill his mission. The desert was not a delay, it was part of the plan. It was a time of connection with the Father, and when the enemy tried to distract Jesus, I already knew who he was and what he was about to do. Maybe you are living a desert right now, feeling alone, tired, disoriented. But look, I've been through many deserts in my life, and I always came out stronger from them. We never understand why you have to go through this when we are in the middle of the desert. But what if this time you are living is exactly the moment when God is shaping your heart? The pain does not come to destroy. She comes to show who you really are and who you are building your faith in. Just like Jesus, you too can come out of this desert more stronger than when you entered. The story does not end in the desert. It only begins there. Now that you know who the demonic being was that tempted Jesus in the desert, it is also important for you to know that Jesus was not the first. The culmination of this temptation was before the flood, in the time of Noah. Fallen angels united with human women and had children with them. From this union were born giants known as the Nephilim. They sowed chaos, violence, and destroyed the planet. The situation became so serious that God's only departure was to destroy everything and everyone. I invite you to watch the video that is appearing on the screen now, where I will show you what the world was like before the flood. But I'm going to leave you with a warning. What you will see in this video is dark. So dark that many religious leaders prefer to hide this content from us and ban it from the Bible. If you have the courage to embark on this millennial journey, click on the video and come with me.